What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of a new series I like to call Redeeming Myself. The series where I go back to my reviews and try to explain my mistakes and or expand on incomplete thoughts. Yes, this is essentially me reviewing my reviews. All of them have had some form of error in them that I can't just have slide past anybody without explanation. It being that today marks exactly 1 year since I uploaded my first video on this channel, the Twister review, how about I go and try to redeem myself in Twister? Ask nearly anyone what they think their worst video is, and likely they'll say the first video they ever made. While I personally don't think the Twister review is my worst, it is definitely a bit cringy when I look back on it. I like to look back on it because it shows me how much I've improved over the past year, but I also hate to watch it for the sheer number of mistakes I made throughout it. I'm gonna try to split my mistakes in separate sections to make things organized. With that said, let's start off with the first thing people would likely notice: unscripted. This can also fall under the category of stuttering, poor word choice, and no research. But yeah, you can definitely tell that I was trying to improvise through this whole review from the very start.
Alright, dude, you got no idea what you're dealing with. You got it easy. Alright, I got a tsunami right outside my window with a machete ready to kill me, alright? When that's not happening, I got an earthquake who's constantly stalking me in my dreams.
Granted, every time I do those smart remarks after showing the first clip, those are improvised as well. But I really should have made the extra effort to script what I wanted to say, rather than lay back in my chair for 30 silent seconds and think about what I wanted to say. At the time, I was gonna make my reviews different from how they are currently. Originally, I was just gonna try to speed through them while attempting to use a humorous voice to compensate. I started the review trying to do that. Jean Debon is a French director of sorts who, does a lot more cinematography than he does directing. But by the time I got to talking about Philip Seymour Hoffman, I suddenly realized that my original idea was already getting messed up, and I didn't want to start all over again. Suddenly my supposed funny voice started getting more serious, and I was at a point where I was just starting to talk about each scene in some detail. And speaking of Philip Seymour Hoffman, that is another example where not scripting was probably my biggest mistake. I probably should have done my rest in peace speech for him either before or after the review, and not just kinda crammed in the middle of the review. The thing I hate the most about this mistake is that there are some spots where it sounds like I literally have no idea what I'm talking about, or what I want to talk about. I live in the Sunshine State where it's mostly storming. So I don't have a storm basement, a tornado door, a room that protects you from those storms. But even I kind of think, I could be wrong, but I think storm cellars don't necessarily have those kind of locks. Because, call me crazy, but I could have sworn I saw that in the restroom the other day. Honestly, that's what makes this review one of the most cringy for me, because people can improvise and still sound like they know what they're talking about, like in Whose Line Is It Anyway? But it just sounds bad here, especially when it almost sounds like I had no idea who Cary Elwes is, or what I remembered him in. Cary Elwes is one of the best British actors that ever lived. I mean, he starred in such famous classics such as The Princess Bride. And you know what? He was really funny in that in most of the movie. He was also in Robin Hood in Tights, or Men in Tights. Robin Hood, Men in Tights. Had I scripted this thing, I likely would have sounded more fluent. And then there's the stuttering and long pauses. And the father learns that when you try to fight an F5 tornado, wow, that's a tongue twister. Ready to kill me, alright? When that's not happening, I got an earthquake who's constantly stalking me in my dreams. Welcome to my world, Joe. I'm not saying stuttering and long pauses are a bad thing. They can be funny depending on the situation, but in this case, yeah, it was just bad. I should have done more takes of some moments to make them sound better, but I just didn't think about it at the time. All I can say is I'm definitely not the next Stanley Kubrick.
Do another take and get it right 127 times.
Now we're on to bad jokes. I don't mean in the sense of offensive jokes, I mean flat out unfunny or confusing and nobody gets it. In fact, let's check out the very first joke I ever made on this channel.
He really wants to get that point across. Alright, because when I think of a movie called Twister, I immediately think that this is going to be a live action version of the game Twister.
Oh my god, dude. That's too hilarious. I almost fell out of my seat.
Shut up.
No, you shut up. One joke that likely 97% of people would not get is this one.
Yeah, you think that's bad? Guess who he has to meet on the way up there?
If you were able to understand this joke prior to me explaining it here, then I applaud you. Basically, in the world of Nintendo Wii games, there exists a little rhythm game known as Rhythm Heaven Fever. In it, you listen to music and songs and you have to tap A or pinch A and B at the correct beats to make the music or song perfect. One game in it, known as Air Rally, involves a dog and a cat playing badminton while flying airplanes. I would not recommend trying this, by the way. The cat can go out into 3 different distances and will constantly say ba-bum bum bum to help you with the beat. When he goes to his furthest distance, he sounds like... So, in the Twister review, I thought it'd be kind of funny if it seemed like the dad had to deal with this annoying cat while being sucked up by a tornado. As if to say, you know, getting sucked up by a tornado was bad enough, but now I gotta deal with this thing? But again, I had to assume that people watching this knew exactly what that was. In other unfunny moments that I thought would be funny, just include things such as editing my voice.
And Devon, I get it. You are in Tornado Alley.
That was me just testing the ropes on what I could do involving editing, because I was technically more used to Final Cut because my college seems to only have Max. But even with that, I didn't know much about editing in Final Cut. So I was merely trying to self-teach the editing techniques of Sony Movie Studio, which is also why some text can look a bit weird when appearing and disappearing.
Because Devon really liked The Wizard of Oz. In fact, fun fact, the dog in the...
But as far as the voice edits go, I thought it would also be funny if my voice just randomly changed sometimes. Finally, and this happens often in all of my reviews, whether for a good reason or not, scenes playing a little too long. There are a couple of spots where that happens in this review: the team leaving the field, the humans being seen, and the build up to the F5. These particular scenes were played like this because they are scenes that I really like. So for my own viewing pleasure, I thought it wouldn't be a bad idea to play some scenes in a bit of a lengthy time. I never said this in the review, but almost nobody that I've seen review this movie even mentions the humans being seen, even though most people find this to be their favorite scene, as is mine. The scene of the team leaving the field for the first time, I don't know what it is about it, but it's just one of my favorite scenes. The build up to the F5, however, was not explained at all, and I hate the fact that I didn't. I played the scene like this because I really like the music here. What I failed to mention is that in this scene, they were cutting soda cans and attaching them to the sensor so the tornado can pick them up easier. I don't even think I showed the clip where they're starting to come to that conclusion. Another thing that always kind of bugged me was this.
How do you not know if there's such thing as an F5? This is stuff you learn in high school, or even middle school. Basic meteorology.
Now see, I don't like the way I worded this because it's almost like I'm saying the levels of a tornado are too advanced for elementary school students to understand, when in reality, I knew about the levels of tornadoes when I was in elementary school. I really should have fixed this line to, this is stuff you learn in elementary school, or even at a very young age. Which again, still doesn't really explain why Melissa has never heard of an F5 before. I'm surprised she didn't ask if there's an F6 in this scene. I don't know, there was a very important scene where they filmed Helen Hunt in the shower, so maybe Melissa dropped the question if there's an F6 while we were getting this amazing storytelling. And there's only a tiny bit of failure involving not researching stuff. I basically asked, can 2 waterspouts lift a truck? When I could have easily looked that up before recording, or even during the recording. I learned after the review that it's very unlikely that waterspouts can lift vehicles. But I still kind of find it weird that the truck wasn't really damaged at all. It just got a little bit wet. And that's really all of the mistakes I can think of in the Twister review. Again, it may be pretty bad compared to the reviews that came after it, but it's still not my least favorite. But I thank you all for watching this first episode, and I think I hear a Spinosaurus in the distance. Whatever. Either way, hopefully I've redeemed myself.